everyone. My name is Al DeGenova, and I'm the co-host of the Traveling Molly's reading series and open mic. Many of you know my co-host, who's Nina Corwin. She won't be able to be here tonight, but she sends her best wishes, sends her love. She's actually attending her husband's daughter's wedding, so she's on her way home. So tonight we will start our open mic in a minute, but just let everyone know that we have two featured readers tonight who will follow the open mic, and that's Tori Grant Welhouse, who's joining us from Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Mike Puican, who's joining us from the UP, Ontonaga, right? So who's also, he, like I, kind of splits his time between Chicago and somewhere else. So anyway, welcome everyone. We're going to, for the audience, we're in the chat, we're going to, as the evening goes on, we're going to list places where you can buy our features books. And also in the past, when we did Traveling Molly's in person, we would always pass a hat because we like to pay our features a little something. So now we have a virtual hat, and I'll post the link for that in a little bit. Once we get started, it'll be in the chat. So we, Nina and I, it's our tradition at Traveling Molly's that nobody in the open mic has to go first. So I will go first. To start the evening off, I'm going to read a poem that was recently published in Crosswinds Poetry Journal, and this poem it's kind of odd that some people get it and some people don't, and I think for those in urban areas, they kind of pick up some of the allusions right away, and because maybe we're inundated with news about people with guns. But anyway, I'm going to read this poem and no more explanation. It's called Human Nature. Some will follow the faint trail of blood through the fresh snow, searching for the story. Some will pay a man with a pickup truck to remove the carcass. The deer that ran a single bullet in its belly to die under a pine tree in my woods. Coyotes in the night mutilate the hindquarters, scrape out with sharp-clawed paws warm organs and entrails. Crows peck and pull fur and skin down to long white ribs. The pool of red and purple, the lifeless eyes of the untouched face. No one blames the coyote or crow for their hunger, nor the hunter thinking he missed, who hoped to share venison with his family. Some, though, without hunger, would kneel on the dying neck, draw a handgun and shoot 15 more holes into the hide, blaming the beautiful doe for something like running. Some would watch this quietly, some would cry out, and some would walk away to let nature take its course. So that's that poem. Thank you. So let's get started with our open mic tonight. Who don't usually go in any specific order, so who shall I start with tonight? I guess I'm going to pick somebody who's new to the Traveling Molly's reading series. Karen Payton, welcome. And where are you at? Are you in Chicago or elsewhere?
I'm not in Chicago. I lived in Chicago for 5 years, and I'm repping with my university sweatshirt. I'm now out in LA now.
Oh, great.
But we'll always feel like Chicago is home.
Oh, okay. Well, you're up.
I think I'll read a couple of poems from, I have a new chapbook length collection coming out from Finishing Line, and I think I'll read a couple of poems from there. So this is the first one. It's called Dad. I told my 92-year-old landlady that my heat was up too high, and she kept me down there for an hour just talking to me about life and death and aging and race and church and human things. Lady across the alley with too many cats. Man upstairs who blares at his mother on national holidays like a forlorn foghorn. Oh, he is noisy, smoking on the landing, she said. And he's always coming in here with his face all beat up, like he's been with the wrong crowd, if you know what I mean. She giggled. She hugged me like a bear, and I love you. You bring me joy. I see you changing. My baby. My brother died recently, she admitted. How she missed barbecues on the back porch. 6 homes in this house, and nobody says hello or grills steaks anymore. Do generations regenerate? Does growing up grow you out of yourself? Does it take your passions and mature you and cure you so you could write it for once by a black lamp on a legal pad? I miss you, Dad. That's the first one. My second, the second one I'll read is called Wren. I was an early bird this morning. She made me an early bird in morning. So young came the shriek, so young. I clung to her wings as she rose. The next one I have is called Astrology. Just where in the celestial clock do I feel safe? Is it under a gray blanket wrapped around the toes? Is it really in the dark, filled with crooked things that make it hard to grow old? I keep looking there. I don't find much, except on Jupiter days. By the light of a meaner moon, it's blown out and erased. So how'd it come to you to fathom these times? That's Astrology. I'm just reading a bunch of short ones this evening, I think.
Okay. Well, we have time for another one.
Okay, one more. Okay. This one's called Uncle's Funeral Song. Fields of Gold is good for the drive. Stairway to Heaven is great, but it's sad, so don't play it the whole time. We're cowboys, but don't, what's that word? Parody it. Pick a country song that doesn't have hell in it. Or beer. What was that one he liked? That's vague, sister. You know the one. Another one bites the dust? You're terrible. Ask Weston, Zeb's son. Not that one. That's too sad. Just sad, sad. Oh, put him in the ground to that one.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's all.
Thanks for joining us. Hope you'll come again.
Yes, absolutely.
Next up, who shall I call? Richard Nestor, joining us also from California today.
Go click them. There you go.
Okay. I'm going to read 2 creature poems. The first concerns a deer. It's called Ridiculous. What to say about the dead deer in the ditch beside the mailbox? I don't know. Better a deer than a skunk. Killed how? I don't know. Between the time I got the morning mail and went to the grocery, that's when I saw the mailbox canted to one side. What to do? Hammer in a stent to prop the mailbox up. Call animal control. No such thing anymore. Tax cuts. Think some thoughts about ill luck, the merciless flies. Shave the blood-soaked ornamental shrubbery to the ground tomorrow once the blood dries. Ring up any Plains Indians I know. None. Hoping for a culture without waste. That's what they say, no waste. I'm skeptical. There's always some forsaken thing, some silly bit beyond the reach of digestion or ritual. It's ridiculous to live in a country with so little knowledge of what to do, with so few skills. I'm ridiculous. We all are, except my uncle, who has a tractor with a carryall. We'll take the carcass to the woods and dump it. The woods will know what to do. There's nothing to say. Then bring some logs back when we come for the fireplace. I think dead deer poems are actually a genre. William Stafford has a very famous one.
Could be. I've got a couple of them.
Maybe we'll get in that NBA list, the 75 top dead deer poems of all time. This is also a creature poem. In this case, the creature is a tree, and it's called I Knew. This morning, I looked at a tree and was glad it wasn't a star. Had it been a star, it would have burned me crisp, instantly, faster even. I felt that much kinship with it, the tree. It too was glad. And I knew it was happy about the light. I'm a tree, it said, and can move large stones slowly. I'll try one more.
It's not dead.
It's not. Today, I felt very animal. I can catch something, I said, with my large hands and quick eyes. The rabbits ran away fast, but I don't think they were scared. He's writing a poem, they said. We're safe, as we always are after the wolves have eaten. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Oh, so nice. To our audience, I just want to say hello. A lot of people joined after we got going, so I just want to say good evening to everybody. Thanks for joining us. Let's continue with the open mic. How about Jim Madigan? What do you got?
Well, very good choice, Al, because I am going to continue in the line of creature poems.
Okay.
This first one is called Extinction. I will never hear the methodical tapping of the ivory-billed woodpecker. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services announced its addition to the extinction list. The ivory-billed woodpecker roamed 12 states, Illinois to Florida, but hadn't been seen since 1944. It was actually a bureaucratic move from endangered list, along with Bachman's warbler, a deep southern state resident that wintered in Cuba. I will never hear that warbler sing. Habitat loss, clear-cut forests, drained wetlands, poisoned waterways, expanding suburbs, poured concrete to connect the cities. No one knows much about those birds anyway. Many animals portrayed in ABC picture books are on the endangered list now. A is for apes, B is for blue whale, C is for California condor. Shall we keep saying the alphabet from endangered to extinction? Last one dead will be a vulture. And the second poem, I read a version of this poem at Traveling Molly's Live in February of 2020. But it's been revised and it's published in this issue of Verse Virtual. It's called The Father of Hansel and Gretel. The story does not begin the day he left Hansel and Gretel in the woods. Before that, he would get up during the night, change the diaper, bring the baby to bed to nurse, and return the baby to the crib. Saturdays, alone with his children, they ran in circles to the amplified sounds of Van Morrison's Real, Real Gone. Too many times, He saw the pleading look in the eyes of his children, that he intervened in their punishment. Silently, passively, standing in the kitchen as Hansel was yelled at, or in the car, enduring the fury which sent car keys flying, Gretel crying. Remember how the father wept with joy when the first time he abandoned them in the woods, Hansel left white stones to find the way back. The story does not end, father and children reunited, after the witch was pushed into the oven. They all grew older, wounded. Thank you.
Nice poem, Jim. The Hansel and Gretel. I just so everybody knows, if you haven't checked the chat, there's actually 2 links there, one from Mike, one from Tori, for how to buy their books from our features. So you can check those out. I'm going to move on now in our open mic. Judith Valente, haven't seen you in a long time. Haven't heard your poetry in a long time. So please share.
Well, thank you, Al. I'll always be appreciative to you. After Hours was one of the first magazines to publish my work many moons ago in the late 90s. And I've been doing mostly nonfiction. So I'm going to debut a few very, very new poems tonight. So thank you for this opportunity. Lovely to see Mike and Mary and Patty McMillan, old friends, Kurt, and my good friend Mary Beth Goldberger came on from Oklahoma City. She came on just the first time at Molly Malone's poetry series. I'll start with a poem called Becoming a Writer. Picture a wooden block the size of a suitcase in a backyard in northern New Jersey. Above it, the large fan-like leaves of a fig tree, their fine hairs. Picture the tree's small fruits dangling like green and brown teardrops, poised at any moment to drop. Then place a 10-year-old child in that spot above the cross stitches of the Jersey Central Railroad tracks, flowing on their way to anywhere and nowhere. Let the child look up at the neighbor's clothesline, strung like an electric wire, at the empty-bodied clothes, the work shirts, baby pajamas, stained white socks, woman's nightgown thinned from too much washing. Let her listen for the train's whistle, the rumbling of cars over a distant bridge, a life beyond. Let her fill each piece of clothing with a story. This is how it begins. This is how it happens on a humid afternoon. She notes the tar scent in the air, the shape of grass beneath the rubber soles of her shoes, and how the children playing in a nearby alley screech like cats in the night. She is soaring now above the fig tree, writing words with air, tethered to dry ground, but walking in space. Becoming a writer. The pandemic really caused me to think a lot about my body and what a miracle the human body is. So this is a poem that came from that. Anatomy. Have you saluted your heart today, that tireless laborer, persistent percussionist, beating a bass drum as we work, eat, make love, sleep? Have you placed your hand on your chest and whispered to your heart as you would a lover? Have you marveled at its hip-hop rhythm, 80 beats a minute, 5,000 beats an hour, 42 million beats a year? Have you stopped to praise your spleen, chestnut-sized sorter of the useful, from the extraneous, the damaged from the intact? Have you marveled at the pharynx and the larynx, those conveyors of food, water, and air? The tongue, that arbiter of taste, or the glottis, sound engineer that allows us to read aloud Dante's Inferno, bedtime stories, the 23rd Psalm, that fills the air with our tall tales and the truth? Have you considered the brain's beautiful regions, the ganglia, the cerebellum, the parietal, temporal, and occipital lobes? How they collaborate like NASA's mission control, 100 billion nerve centers, filling the eyes with Michelangelo's David, the ears with Bach's Goldberg variations, moving the hands, typing the words on this page, directing my legs toward a cardinal perched on a lonely branch. Have you not knelt in wonder at the sight of a cell's inner workings, how it looks like the grid of Manhattan or a set of archipelagos tossed in an ocean? The mitochondria, the endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi apparatus, the membrane-bound organelles. And why does the map of this cell make me think of Hayat Nazir, a Lebanese artist who says she's never known peace, sculpted the figure of a standing woman from bits of rubble and broken glass she collected after a Beirut blast. A figure with wires for blowing hair and a dress of scorched canvas. The artist named her We Will Rise, placed a torch in the woman's hand like the one the Statue of Liberty clasps, and tilted the woman's face upward for the dusty sky.
Wow.
And one final one, a shorter one. This is for the season that we're in, this change of season, this change of time that we're experiencing. The almost but not yet. Shortened days, still they come bearing their breadbasket of gifts, most of them unexpected, undeserved. The green hummingbird buzzing like a bee above the white petunias. The raccoon hiding at dawn in the crook of a hickory tree. Already I miss the praying mantis staring out from behind the vinca vines. The trio of grasshoppers that took up residence among the geraniums and have moved on. The crows begin their morning conversations later now. Daylight grows paler. When I walk, a dried leaf or two follows me on the wind, scraping the sidewalk like an old shoe. This is the almost, but not yet, the season that signals the end, but isn't the end. Outside the back door, a Swanson's thrush lies dead. Some message sent from beyond, probably crashed into the glass at night. Its body fits in my palm, olive wings and black striped breast, unmoving in the wind, legs folded under, dark eyes still as mirrors. I bury it next to the rose bush still blooming. Few days remain to harvest, to glean, to walk barefoot in the sacred grass, or watch the bright bulb of Jupiter dally with the cold light of the harvest moon. Time to set aside my jars of intentions for winter, to pull out final weeds, to let go of what is broken or piece it together again. Thank you.
Wow. Thanks so much, Judy. It was worth the wait. I hope you don't mind if I remind you, I remember fondly that if everybody here is listening remembers the three tenors, but Judy and I and Donna Pucciani did a number of readings together as the three Paisans, which was a lot of fun.
It's the Tre Paesani Italiani.
Yeah. Other than three, well, with Donna Pucciani, so other than the three of us being Italian Americans, we were also all published by the same publisher. So that was, that also was the link, but those were some fun readings. Okay, enough of that. So we'll move on. Let's see, who should go next? John Simmons, all the way from Hawaii.
Thank you, Albert, and everybody. This is a poem called "A Reflection of Ducks," to continue the sort of the sub-theme of the animal kingdom, and this ties together some nostalgic views of a daughter. It's called "A Reflection of Ducks." You were the little girl, intently handing corn to the creatures at the edge of the pond, near your shiny shoes, being careful of mud. Your gray bonnet framing sunlit curls gently shadowed the top of your face, leaving the lower to look nearly angelic above the dark collar of your matching gray coat. The photo I took of you that day at Slater Park, using the gray-green squint and click drugstore camera, somehow caught the morning sun, its companion shade, and the eager ducks by the sequined waters in a trademarked way, easily used in commercial joy, a pastoral postcard to persuade with image of happy innocence in a place by a pond, at a zoo in Pawtucket. Photo by dad of a child, still too young for school, but aware perhaps of parental drift. Another little girl with ducks is made of bronze and cheers in playful, breezy dress pose on the bandstand pond at Oahu's Kapiolani Park. 5,000 miles and 50 years later, as waterfowl cruise by her statue and beneath the sidewalk bridge that arcs the waters winding through the park. Runners, relaxing from distance efforts, notice and maybe scatter crusts and crumbs for the birds, sharing the happy abandon of the sculpted child as they greet fellow finishers of the day's long course, thinking of Sunday breakfast or weeknight dinners waiting. The photo of toddler daughter took on new growth at 8x10, copied prints in holiday mails, reaching grateful families who, unlike attentive ducks, did not stay put, swim, or fly for long in domestic patterns. Ducks seem kind examples of reflective, lasting joy, but our visions of them could be snapshots too, of mallards or Hawaii cousins, poised for a calendar photo, framed as floating placid feathers that belie anxieties on hold, but soon to follow. Feeding faith from caring hands, spreading seeds and popped kernels from your cardboard cornucopia, our 60s child in gray bonnet delivered for years to her flocks at worship. We too are migrants of fleeting fate, a daughter of New England to Palos Verdes, Manhattan Beach, and Santa Cruz, flying back to marriage seasons in Lake Bluff and Ingleside, the horseshoeing home roofing years, the commute to Dubuque to earn your collar, running the Underdog Methodist Church in Joe Davies, Stockton, racing car driver husband, 2 kids there to pray with you Sundays, the parish years in Wisconsin, Cambridge, Burlington, Madison, the West Alice Amen finale, then out on your own with little kids grown, race driver alone, and late second husband asleep under stone. And now, unlike other seniors seeking serenity in season's warmth, you work an upper coast of Scotland, serving nature and its climate, a big picture role in small settings, meeting needs of creatures, some afloat and hungry, or remote with quiet needs on disconnected shores. Thanks very much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
It's nice you've become a regular in the last few months. So welcome once again.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Al. Appreciate it. And everybody else.
Our regulars, and probably some of the non-regulars don't know this, but I publish After Hours magazine, and After Hours and the Traveling Mollies are really not related, except for that I do both. But I wanted to mention that we have a poetry contest every year. This is our 4th year. I just sent out an announcement about it and in an email, and deadline's February, so you got plenty of time if you want to enter the contest. But I want to introduce Bob Chicoine, who was one of our finalists this year. So how about it, Bob? Come on.
How about it, everybody? So I got the usual passel of shorties for you here. This autumn, the Martians, those sentimental fools, land their saucers not in the crop fields or the trailer park, but atop the trampoline in our backyard. A perfect fit that our daughter has outgrown over the course of the summer. Legacy student. My daughter is taking sex ed in the same room where I took wood shop in the back north wing. Sometimes in his later years, Homer would forget where he was going in the story and, too old to ad lib, would let a silence settle over his audience that the tree frogs and cicadas would fill in and make a sound like sirens. The sea, whenever it doubts its depth in relation to the mass of Earth, takes a moment to remember the hum of the Titanic's giant propellers. Uncorking a bottle beside the river, I am sure I never drink the same wine twice. If 2 of your eggs dropped at once, I would still have but one spermatozoon, wagging its tail, trying to make up its mind. The ambulance did not beat the train to the crossing, but its siren did beat the honk. If you do turn over in your grave, the spin of the earth will be your dancing partner I never was. When God calls me home, may he use the voice of my mother calling me in from playing to supper, after which I could go out and play some more until night fell. Apprenticeship. After I was done watching grass grow and paint dry, I was ready to watch you just daydreaming, taken with you wherever you went or never left. First day back to school, the ice cream truck spins its jingle through the zoo, the playground, the gone carnival, the circles outside town where the saucers landed, watched our summer in secret, then took off. I don't need you to understand me or to grok, for our minds to have a perfect meeting, but just to write the book that late at night I fall asleep to reading. adding my poems to the recycling for today's pickup, hoping these might make everything else in the landfill decompose without effort. The light at the end of the tunnel takes us for the darkness at the entrance to the tunnel, and is not mistaken. An Ubermensch in the underworld is at last in balance and escorts an ordinary sweetheart to the dance. Even when I am looking not at the ladies or the sirens or the muses, but only at the clouds, the shadows, the Grand Canyon, the constellation Cassiopeia, they all say, "Oh, Lordy, there's that male gaze again." And so I am found out again. Though I do love it every time the clouds say, "Oh, Lordy." A cloud passes over the sun. I can't see what I am writing. A silence falls in the woods. I can't hear what I am thinking. A curtain closes on the past. Everything answers when I say your name. Being word drunk in youth is fun, bellowing with lung power. But the hangover of silence in old age is even nicer. Dying, I finally mastered the art of looking busy. Old enough this year to be father to my own father at his last, I mean to go deeper into autumn, as he wanted to go, standing silent under the backyard maple during October twilight long ago. And I thought I had found in this season folds and recesses of the darkness that he had hoped to discover. But I find also there is some light at the end of everything, even light at the end of light. Thank you, everyone.
Nice job, Chico. Nice job. Always witty and fun and poignant. Let's see. How about Patricia McMillan, who was also a Mary Blinn Prize finalist. What have you got for us this month?
I have a few poems that I would like to share. I can't believe I didn't read this one before, but it's been accepted for publication in spring, so I'll read it again. It's called At the Eye Doctor with Mom. Did I read this before? Okay. It wasn't memorable, so that's good.
I may have read it before, but I don't remember you reading it before.
Yeah, that's true. I may have just shown it to you. These days, she's got nothing better to do but be with me, co-inhabit the raised metal chair while I look straight ahead through her eyes, speak her thoughts in a voice that sounds increasingly like hers. Together, we take each test, first the flashing peripheral light test we hate, then the one where we try not to recall the letters we called out 2 minutes ago with the other eye, whether TOEFL or YCSPT, because we're here to get our vision checked, not to prove our memories still sharp. We know there's no prize for a perfect score, but when the tattooed assistant says she's stepping out to get dilation drops for us, and we mishear and think she's promised us melon drops, though one of us is both imaginary and dead, we share one mute disappointment. So this is actually, thank you. This is a set of poems about mom. Well, this is the other one about mom. It's called In Mom's Room on the 4th of July. I talk to Jade while Mom, eyes vacant, mimes listening. For our holiday, Jade wears a nurse's blouse she brings out once a year, red, white, and blue. What are Nigeria's colors, I ask. Jade says, green, white, and green, because we're farmers. What do you grow, I ask. Some cola, she says, coffee, but mostly cassava, the root, not the melon. It's poisonous unless prepared just so. Jade knows that my husband and I are divorcing, that he punched me in the face in March, that the concussion still makes me forgetful and confused. Mom knows about the divorce and the concussion, but not its cause. Instead, I told her I had hit my head on the wall, and she asked, why? On purpose? Sometimes Jade finds cassava flour here in our groceries, sometimes tapioca. Mom's eyes brighten for a second, hearing that word, tapioca. Is it a form of dance, of music? For celebrations, Jade says, my mother made tapioca pudding and soaked kola nut in sweetened water for us to drink. Did you like that, I ask? Jade says, oh, we did. But now, cavities. Jade tells me her secrets while Mom sleeps. She says, I filed for my husband to immigrate, but after 1 week, he went back. Men cannot change. Mom's eyes flutter open. She smiles, falls back to sleep. Jade's mouth still hurts from yesterday's root canal, but she speaks slowly, clearly. You must stand up straight so he can see that you are good. He will be sorry one day for what he did. And thank you. This last one is brand new. It's called Passing Time. At my age, some days rush by without so much as a friendly nod, the wave of a gloved hand, like they're in a hurry to get someplace else, find new companions, better weather. They're off to light forest fires in Greece, leave Afghans stranded outside the only airport, deconstruct apartment buildings in Florida. I say, stick around. Lay with me on a lakeside beach, watching waves creep up on sand, clouds collect in the sky. Take the dog for a long walk. Bake some bread. Don't make a spectacle of yourself. Thanks.
Thank you, Patty. Oh, this open mic is really something so far. Thank you, everyone. Next up, Leonard Lunt.
Thank you, Al. It's good to be back. All of the family crises resolved. Mary Carol Hackett, the Virginia poet, and I were complaining to each other about not having done a lot of writing in the last 6-7 months. So we decided that instead of writing a short novel during November, we would challenge each other to do a 30-30. And these 3 pieces come from the first week of that. Creation, while watching the short film Messages by Guy Sherwin. The shadow of a tree moving across a blank page is no more than the wind until stopped to be examined, to trade places with a rock lifted by the hand of curiosity from a freshened stream on a day when flecks of dancing sunlight offer possibilities, but no certainties. Moved by wind or water, a leaf changes everything, but longs to be held between pages, to wait for its own sweet revelation. Grabensfjord, after the 1839 painting by Thomas Fernley. I build and mend the fishing boats that leave the shelter of the inlet, to work beyond the current line that marks the end of some sense of safety, to answer the challenge of the ocean's sleight of hand. Their children's food at risk as much as their own lives, as the future of the waiting lies suspended on the rough beach, waiting for their heartbeats to resume as returning boats are counted. And I wait with the hopeful fearful, the silent witnesses to joy and sorrow on the wave-brushed stones, knowing that my work is solid, sound, while also knowing that water is an element even the towering cliffs must honor. Winter finds us after the 1934 photograph by Fred Stein. We held close for 2 eternities, sharing heat the only street light could never reinfuse after the storm, joking that one final kiss or 2 might bind your lips to mine like touching tongues to frozen iron. And then we said goodnight, goodbye, and walked apart to explore lands unknown, unnamed. Figures in a poem falsely protesting, regretting the decisions most days, but neither ever enough to recant. All the curving and tangential tracks of cars carefully steered somewhere. The footsteps and paw prints left as momentary fossil records of lives sadly or gladly spent together or alone. We left not even these behind. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Leonard. Good to have you back.
Good to be here.
Let's see. Carlos Cumpian, who snuck into the open mic at the last minute, but we had space. There he is. Carlos is also the featured writer in the current issue of After Hours. So welcome, Carlos.
Hey, thank you for having us. Hosting it all for the love of poetry. I really enjoyed what Judith was talking about reevaluating our bodies in the midst of this interesting pandemic. It's so interesting. When will it stop? Okay, anyway. I just have one for all. Here it goes. It's called The Critic. The malcontent born and raised in Egypt, his middle-aged skin smelled of good spice soap, while his words made himself angry enough to cry, burning tears that dug furrows in his cheeks, yet each drop as white as chlorine or ice. When he cleared his throat after his bout of rage, he sipped dark clove star coffee that stained his book's opening page. Arabian wine, the hook of the Protestant, the coffeehouse king. He worked on a cushion, in socks, wore loose pantaloons. He wrapped his head in jute-woven mud-cloth, his neck twice in silk scarves. His days shaped the task he bent his back over an old writing table, under the pre-dawn lights of Cairo that never slept. A drawer was where he kept his finest paper and pens, the treasures of his travel to Rome, where he met his wife. Peaches was what the sweet name for his blonde, who had expertise in wines. Early Fridays, he brought her flowers and a fresh baguette, and whispered a shortened French phrase in her pink ear. Tu prends le petit déj avec moi? Would you have breakfast with me? After 11, went to the park, found his croquet partner, and they managed to build up a sweat in the spring heat. He lost his modest bet. It cost him a bundle of grapes his pal carried off in his bicycle basket. Returning home, the writer stopped at Les Boutiques de Tabac, where he restocked on his husky pale packs of Gaulois and Gitan. He took a late lunch of sliced crusty bread and sardine, topped off with Moroccan olive oil and salt. There was still a sprig of basil growing in the window pot, which he added to his meal, and sheathed his parched throat with water and lemon juice. Once secure in domestic solitude, he used his antique lighter, an American relic from World War II, and lit 2 evening candles, their lambacy bent in time to the local mosque's megaphone Maghrib call to prayer. A moment later, he opened his unfinished book, which seasonally pulled him back to when he criticized his life with a crooked rope. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that a newer poem?
I just wrote it.
Yeah,
but
wonderful.
I think that what's funny is this little book here. I had this little book buried somewhere, and I just found this little book, and it had some notes in it. And I just wrote that poem based on a few notes, and the book is about 10 years old, so it's been sitting around, waiting to be. It's been gestating or something.
Yeah, there you go, gestating.
Yeah.
So we have one more in the open mic tonight. I don't think I missed anybody. I'm going to bring up Mary Holly, who for those who don't know, is partnered with one of our features tonight, Mike. They're probably in the same house, I would imagine. So, so Mary, let us hear some good poetry.
All right. Thank you, Al. Yeah, this is great. Hey, how's my volume? Is this okay? Okay, good, good. So I'm going to read two poems. Yes, Mike and I are up at my family's cabin on Lake Superior. This is a place where my family has actually, the town nearby, my family has lived for 7 generations, which is enough time for a lot of issues to come up. So this is a poem about a little bit of that, dealing with my grandfather, but it's really a poem about healing and how places can heal you. It also continues tonight's deer theme, although, spoiler alert, in this case, the deer lives. So this poem is called Tunnel. Tonight, fog rolls over the beach, lapping at the feet of the dog as she runs ahead, bouncing over logs and rocks, zigzagging into waves. Trees draw together like a curtain behind the rising mist. The cabins vanish. I walk in a gray tunnel that opens before me the way a night highway unravels, white lines unspooling under the car. No frogs sing in the marsh, no eagle on a long glide over the lake, no ghosts, but that of my grandfather as a boy, combing this beach for wood 100 years ago, while his parents stoked the stove in a drafty cabin. Summers, they came here from town, jolting along the plank road in a horse-drawn cart. The dog's black and white legs churn as she disappears, reappears, like the beacon winking from town. I don't know when the darkness started for that boy, came down like a curtain, hushing the world, separating him from every other living thing. There were no names for it then, nor cures. On a night like this, he walked in a tunnel of black thoughts, so no stars, no moon, didn't know I would follow him. When he startled a buck at the creek, its hooves exploded in the sand, and he fell back, as spooked as the deer. He laughed then, full out, and laughed with us later whenever he told of it. So always this place would save him, would save us. The second poem is, it's one of a series that I'm writing, a project with the Uruguayan poet Sylvia Goldman. And it starts with an epigraph, a line from one of her poems. The poem is called In This Hour, and the epigraph is, Hay enormes maneras de leer. There are enormous ways to read. A woman reads in a corner on the edge of the world. Her light is the sun on a string. She reads the shadowed folds of mountain ranges, the fall and rise of water in pursuit of the moon, the scudding clouds. The woman has tired of fires and flags and pestilence, of evil in the cheap robes of fame, of how the mending, the holding together are never mentioned, only the movements of armies. What is missed when they speak of nothing else? The wind is a long vowel. She is alone, no child, no lover, no mother. In this hour, her solitude is not a deprivation. In this hour, her thoughts wheel like a murmuration of starlings over a darkening field. Soon she will pull down the sun for the night, glad no one is there to remark on it, no one there to devour her. No one who will dismantle the sunset, stripping one color from the next until the sky is blank. Thanks.
Thank you, Mary. It's good to see you. Well, that wraps up our open mic. Well, our two features will be coming up next, Tori Grant Welhouse and Mike Puican. I have just put into the chat at Traveling Molly's, and I had said before, we always pass the hat just to be able to give our features a little something for their efforts and for their fine work. So now we have a virtual hat, which is a PayPal link. If you go there, you'll see that it's sponsored by After Hours Magazine through our website, but it's dedicated to Traveling Molly's, and all the donations will be shared equally between our features, which is how we would always do when we pass the hat anyway in real life. So there was, hopefully they get more. It used to be we hoped to at least give them gas money and enough for a hamburger at the coffee house, where we would have had the reading. With that, Kurt is going to run a little video for us, and then we'll bring up our features. So that was just a little peek at both Mike and Tori. For those who are watching, and if you're interested, I can probably post it again, but way up at the beginning of the chat are links to books from both of our features tonight. So tonight I'm going to read Tori's bio. I've known Tori for a little while. She actually invited me to read at her reading series in Green Bay, which was really fun. And I also know her through the Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets, which is a really vibrant organization, actually. Much better than the Illinois Poets group. Just an unbiased kind of comment. So Tori Grant Welhouse's poems have appeared most recently in The Wolf, Suite, and Quartet. She was a runner-up for the 2020 Princemeer Prize and won Etching Press's 2020 Poetry Chapbook competition for her chapbook Vaginas Need Air, which is a really excellent book. I recommend it highly. She published her young adult fantasy, The Fergus, in 2019, winning Skyrocket Press's inaugural contest. And so I'm looking forward to hearing you, Tori.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. For those of you who are looking for me, I am actually showing up as WFOP host because I last used Zoom to host a workshop. So I apologize for that. All right, I am going to start out with the poem for this time of year when the nights get darker. Black Friday. Our sister didn't die on Black Friday, but our mother did. Our sister died in spring, but she knew she was dying at Thanksgiving. She wished she'd got a sexier cancer, breast, brain, or even leukemia. Sexy meant funded by research. Instead, she got inoperable stomach cancer. We got periwinkle blue cancer ribbons. Periwinkle blue sounded awfully airy-fairy. She thought that was hilarious. Her last Thanksgiving, she thought lots of things were hilarious. She was still able to drink wine then. Chemo was comical. It's absolute poison, she said, twirling the beaded charm on her wine glass. She'd call us during sessions just to punctuate the tedium, her heavy voice muddled by monotony and cell damage, our sister sighed like no tomorrow. Insurance was laughable, how she had to appeal and appeal when a treatment stopped working just to be able to try a new inhibitor or anti-tumor cocktail. Bankruptcy was hysterical. To hell with it, she'd said, buying her children new beds so at least they'd have somewhere to sleep. Most diverting of all were her eyebrows, the bald ridges where they used to be. She drew them on and rubbed them off, side-lipping her tart remarks. How tired she was, how listless, how her damn wig itched. She held it like a bowl, begging us in high comedy. My brother and I didn't need charms to tell us whose glass was empty or full. As we drank pour after pour with her side splitting, our sister killing us with black humor, laughing and howling. Now I'll turn to something that most people kind of like. It's from the chapbook Al mentioned, Vaginas Need Air, which that chapbook was prompted after we lost our mother, and my sister and brother and I were talking about her and sharing stories. And I realized as the eldest, I had a completely different version of our mother than they did. And so this chapbook is my attempt to capture my version of my mother. Bra burning. Mother dismantled my argument to go braless, twisting her lips, distrusting the story. Why would a woman burn a perfectly good brassiere? And if a woman wanted to be Miss America, shouldn't it be within her power to try? She wondered if I got my facts straight. You will thank me one day, Mother said, standing at the stove in her nightgown, sauteing Hawaiian meatballs for a pool party. Disappointment like the stomach flu thumbed the soft underside of my jaw, cruising in the back seats of cars with my two best friends in their halter tops of macrame and fringe. The catapult of breasts as we ran around the car in a Chinese fire drill, another phrase with a story problem. We didn't know exactly who we might like, so kissed each boy goodnight. I stood on tiptoe, boys tilting their chins, fanning their eyelashes, holding their breath to make their chests broader, less excited by the night air and the extra layers between my breasts and me. When I got home, women were changing in my bedroom. Mothers of my friends, auxiliary women, women like Mother, who were not bra burners, but would like to surprise their partners, their children, themselves with what might be possible, if only they weren't encumbered by expectations, skewed facts. A neighbor woman toweled off, bending from the waist, her pendulous breasts hanging gruesomely to the floor. Mother could be right sometimes. There was no arguing with gravity. And so here's a few more from the chapbook. Where there's smoke. Girls, get up, says Father. The urgent way he heads down the hall with his rooster comb of dark hair, swish of cotton pajama bottoms. My sisters and I stumble after him, wondering what in the night awoke him, drawing us out of our brooding beds. Do you smell smoke? Help me find the smoke. Mother's nest on the couch in the quiet living room is not long vacated. Cotton blanket left behind in a swung dash for words already said. Mother has trouble sleeping. Depression is the sinking part she can't get out of. Father is on all fours sniffing the carpet, uncomfortable chairs. We mimic him like a litter of sightless pups. He yanks off the couch cushions. We push down the muslin covering the serpentine springs. Inside the stuffing, a small ember smolders. We help him carry the couch out the front door in a bulky push-pull procession. He pours pitchers of faucet water into the couch, hoping to snuff out the spark. We hold our noses at the sharp odor of wet smoke and expensive tapestry. Our street is empty with only a few porch lights left on. Sprinklers turn on and off. Father watches water seep out the bottom, running like a stream into the cracks of the front walk. He catches his breath, rooster comb teetering to one side. That should do it, he said, ushering us back to bed. We wake in the early dawn to an inferno in our front yard, plumes of fire and smoke renting the suburban sky. Mother, minimal in her sleeveless nightgown, watches her designer couch burn, leaning against Father, who waits for the fire truck. Our neighbors glance over, understanding that love can exist in the same house as disaster. Goulash. 1. Mother dog ears the pages, recipes with worldly names like stroganoff, cassoulet, ragout, in between housewifely articles about how to clean grout, the perfect smile, and the problem with no name. Slick photos, dangerous game, Father doesn't like his food touching. 2. Mother has a way of cocking her hip at the stove. 3. I'm roused from my reading to set the table. The flutter of blue tablecloth against the wallpaper of tropical birds, low-hanging candelabra, curio cabinet with the good china and silver. Dinner is Mother's insistence, despite how late Father gets home. 4. We have our places at the table. Mother and Father at each end, me and sisters, little brother arranged around the country French edge. Father stares at the casserole dish in the center of the table, bubbling and bloody. The eerie translucence of cooked cabbage. What's that, he asks, that thing with his jaw when he's angry, even into the light of the window behind him. Goulash, says Mother, lighting a cigarette, staring back in a standoff only they know the meaning of. 5. Father divines with a serving spoon, parting the ways of cabbage, ground beef, and tomato sauce, distaste set in his lips. 6. The spoon in slow motion, the spoon in a flash, catapult of casserole onto Mother, who doesn't flinch at first. We hear the fancy clock tick, tock, hand nudging incrementally while we're all afraid to move or laugh or anything. 7. The wideness of our eyes sitting on our hands. Mother slowly reaches, retaliating with the spoon. Father splattered with casserole. He throws down a napkin, unable to speak past his clenched teeth. The squeegee sound of the station wagon in reverse. 8. Mother eats a small portion of casserole. We feel for each other's feet beneath the table, trying not to look at each other. Clumps of casserole cling to Mother, the tablecloth, and the wall like scratched scabs. We have no ideas about appropriateness or response. 9. We are excused from the table. 10. Mother clears, taking her time on the back stoop, shaking out the tablecloth, watching the purple martins streak and swoop in the dusking sky, searching for bugs. Mother doesn't have to search for Father. She knows where he is. They sashay home after bedtime, following each other's headlights. 12. Meal planning takes a turn, alternating nights of food that doesn't touch with food that does. Bath night. Mother helps us wrap our hair in towels like queens of Sheba. She strides the shag carpet in her pink curls and drifting cigarette. Towels belong in the bathroom or down the laundry chute. We half dry. The clean scent of softener on our pajamas, flouncy baby dolls with elastic leg ruffles, some slinky newfangled fabric. We tip over in a pile of girl with our damp skin, legs, and downy arms, long necks with our hair pulled up. Mother hands us hairbrushes, watches us pull at our scalps. Father, outnumbered, works late. I know the patterns of both my sisters' tan lines, their nipples neat as coins. Our mother reads us 1 eye, 2 eyes, and 3 eyes. 2 eyes is supposed to be the heroine, but 3 eyes uncovers the truth. Only 2 eyes close. The 3rd eye is curious. Vaginas need air, says mother, switching off the light. We kick off our pajama bottoms, feel the night air between our legs. She kisses us goodnight, glancing kisses with her dry lips. Mother smells of Viceroy and Dippity-Doo. We imagine the ecosystem of our private parts, part eye, part channel to a hidden chamber. Thank you. That poem, of course, is the poem that inspired the title. And now I have a few poems from a collection I've been working on. Anniversary. Long years of nothing much to say. Dawn nears, a thing touches, you stay. Words and their cataclysm. Words are inadequate. Complete honesty is an uneasy state between two people, maybe impossible, maybe ill-advised. Early days, we called it, in our compulsion of beachcombing, sleeping under a net of stars with our satellites, sweeping for wishes. The promise of a relationship stretches beyond the relationship. How much of a person should exist? How much amorphousness? The flare of you is in my optic nerve. You are behooved, necessary, like the icy beauty of crystals in the cirrus of luminosity. You think because you're a man, you can tell me what to do, what to think. I hate you for that. I fight you for the right to my own opinions. We are one rumble in a sky of thunder. Hate doesn't mean I can live without you. There are denser particles in our atmosphere. My indistinct edges overlap your indistinct edges. We are rising air, water droplets, dust. Flaming pajamas. Cotton is the perfect provocation. Flame is in love with natural fibers. Unsure of itself at first, heat gasps the gimmick. Slow lick trick, aberrant breeze bellowing below stairs, pairs. I am the keeper of many flames. I have an allegiance to shine, flash, burn, having been sputtered by each in turn. Oh, my ignitable heart, quinquagenarian pneuma, womb loom, I awake to the nap. My pajamas are on fire, blaze trapped in a cage, a lean-to of sticks of my own making, knotted and gnarled, spare and magnified. Stirring catches the whole thing. A spark must flourish, lured by fabric, pattern, chronology, burnishing the years like a cautery. I remember my 2 ribs, brittle by now. They tell me less is more. I am the juxtaposition, arms, legs, torso, weight of experience, brain incendiary. Perhaps unbuttoned, I can dream better. On the other side of the door. Her eyes are huge, whites of a blizzard. I serve dinner on a door. Parents, siblings, cousins arrive from all directions. riding in on their horses, mules, tanks. They shed their matted wool and fur, leaning on the door with their elbows, last knuckles. The air foams and froths, veery spaces where conversation fizzes. The men are ravenous, laugh too loudly. The women rearrange the tableware. The children press their foreheads to the door. Steam is an engine of what can be, what cannot. Somehow we make room for more. We grace our puny prayer. Platters are passed around the door from hand to hand. My niece's eyes are too big for food. Sitting in her father's lap, she asks us, "Why do none of you speak of my dead mother?" Fork tines toll. Our breath plumes in slow motion. I reach for the icicle in my heart, her trembling hand. On the other side of the door is a pond frozen over. Snow flies in large clumps. Twinkling lights shine through white shells glowing with snow. My niece and I skate circles, snow splotching our hair, cheeks, noses. Your mother loved the snow, I tell her. My niece sticks out her tongue to taste what's fleeting. Okay, so I will end with 3 short poems. My daughter's coming back from Central America this week. She's been gone for months. So these poems were inspired by her. Her last year in high school, I wrote her a poem every week and stashed it in her lunch. And she didn't hate it. In fact, she would sometimes read the poems to her lunch table. So my deal was that they'd be 100 lines or less, and each one would be a kind of a lesson poem or a counsel poem. So I have 3 for you. Lesson 18, intuition. Telescoping from your cervical spine in a barbed coat rack, frequency in your fingers, depths of your cleary eyes, you develop a signal to your satellite self. Wiseness is recognizing pattern, repeating waves of sound, light, reflect an inner tower. You learn to detect the jerk of dishonesty, the disingenuous, the velocity of a lie. Lesson 21. Sex. One side of it, a screaming, teeth at your neck, swing of the hammer blow, blunting the soft bolster of the body, spine trilling, marimba wood malleted fiercely. The other, a flickering, tongue-lick flame, melting coins of butter in your belly button. You will be candle-wicked by 2 fingers and spit. Lesson 22, solitude. You give yourself room, susceptible to plushness, very fine hairs. You're not wrong, not right, benign as a window, cool glass pane, relishing flatness, passivity. You sit bowl, slurp yourself, a satiation of hunger, thirst, peace. You might hold a teacup, fingering the glaze of it between your blessings, free from the ricochet of other people, bothersome mouth breathing, exactingness of places, your spleen or other inexplicable organ, happiest when left alone. Thank you.
Oh, that was wonderful, Tori. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was nice to hear some of those poems that I've only read before out loud. Really, really nice. So that was Tori Grant Welhouse, and a link to her book is further up in the chat. So if anyone's interested, you can find her website or a link to the book. Next up is an old friend, Mike Puican, whose latest book I didn't buy right away. I think came out, Mike, during the pandemic, right? Central.
Oh yeah, yeah. Last August.
Yeah, but I wanted to wait till I could see you in person to buy it, so I did that, and it's a really good book. Really,
Thank you.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So I will read Mike's bio here. Mike Puican's debut book of poetry, Central Air, was released by Northwestern University Press last August. He's had poems in Poetry, Michigan Quarterly Review, and New England Review, among others. He was a member of the Chicago Slam team and has been a longtime board member for the Guild Literary Complex. He has taught poetry to incarcerated and formerly incarcerated individuals at the Federal Metropolitan Correctional Center and St. Leonard's House in Chicago. And so then that's just a small bit of what Mike's done. So Mike, let's hear some poetry.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Al. And thanks everybody for being here. I know just about everybody here, and it's great to see everybody. It's great to hear everybody. That was a terrific open mic. And Tori, those were great poems. Thank you. As Mary said, we're not in Chicago. I thought we'd be the furthest of anybody here, but you know, apparently Hawaii's a little further than Upper Peninsula, Michigan. And it's getting a little cooler. It's beautiful up here, but it was snowing when we drove up. No snow on the ground, but this weather turns my mind to spring. And I'm going to read a poem. It's about warm weather. It's about love, but really it's a love letter to spring. It's called La Calle De Los Salvados, the Street of the Saved. At a stoplight, Celia Cruz sings, "I am but a wind-tossed leaf longing for her lover's touch." A messenger waits at a bike beside a woman in a convertible, around whom a bolero rises. No one in this traffic would be surprised to see the sun darkened by this woman's tear-streaked face, or to see her smudged blue eyelids make disappear the clear, widening sky. 24 school children walk through her tears. They carry flowers from a garden her heart has trampled through. The messenger's hands are golden, they're pollen covered, just as her red leather seats and matching purse are pollen covered. As she waits, the entire third grade floats past her car. She thinks, why have I cried so long? The light turns green and two sounds break loose. The beating wings of a cell phone in her handbag and a street fair tuba played by a black bear announcing spring. You're all on mute, but I hear your I hear your applause. Thank you. I was recently invited to be part of a day-long and night-long poetry reading in support of the people of Cuba and the plight that they are through in with all of the harshness and brutality of the current totalitarian government. It's easy when you live in the United States to criticize totalitarian governments. Our country has been a beacon of democracy, and I'm all for democracy, but it's not enough. And that's where our country has fallen flat, because if you're not part of the majority, you're not well taken care of, and our history in dealing with minorities is poor, is very poor. This poem is called is an exploration of this. It's called "Democracy Has Lifted Its Voice," and it starts with an epigraph by James Bovard. Democracy must be something more than two wolves and a sheep voting on what to have for dinner. Democracy has lifted its voice and boarded its windows. Democracy has entered the room. All rise. Democracy is a bag of M&Ms without the blue ones. Democracy stands outside your window singing sweet songs of love. Democracy has chops. It dances at bars, has too many Manhattans, tells you it loves you. It tails you through department stores, through the iron gates of its asylums. Democracy, your assembly halls are filled with tears. Chamber of dicks. Holy are the poor, but let's table that for another discussion. Democracy needs to defend itself against other democracies. Mexican democracies, Philippine democracies, Beninian and Botswanian democracies. Not to mention those pesky local democracies with stockpiles of semi-automatic weapons and homemade baked goods. Democracy stands outside your door, raking the leaves off your lawn. So tell me, how do we settle this? As you've heard, my wife Mary is just in another room. I'm going to read a poem that I wrote for her. I wrote it on our 13th anniversary, and we've been married 19 years, but this still pretty much stands. It's called Abundance. This trembling, electrified, off-phase abundance, these broken amens, these misguided loves, streets purged, fire bent and unquenched. Here among the neophytes and novices is you, M, thirsty for experience, for the chance to sing Too Hot to Handle out loud on the bus ride home. Here is your old Romanian poet, uncertain songbird, stale cornbread minus 4%. The markets crash, the funds collapse, and still the beast adores you. The beast has always adored you. My mind searches for miracles, but the miracles shift. They scamper away like salamanders in the sun. They fall apart and then reassemble themselves in your arms. Ancient home, ancient tree colors blazing through North Chicago. M, are you listening? M, reach into the future. No ambiguity, no suffering need be lost here in this waiting place, this capsized boat painted with roses. Pull me into the future. And then, and then, and then. So I do a lot of writing in coffee shops. I used to do a lot of writing in coffee shops. I haven't for about 2 years. But when I did, I loved sitting in a coffee shop and looking out those huge windows and seeing the city, seeing the weather. I have realized that if I sit down and I don't have a thought and I want to write, but I've got nothing. I've realized that if I work on it, if I wait long enough, something happens. This is called man digging a sidewalk. Morning at a busy intersection under a large elm, a young man with thick, short arms digs up a sidewalk. He works steadily, not fast, at his own pace. I watch him and the elm's leaves that have turned yellow and are now edged with brown. A teenager walks past the young man and over the mounds of dirt. She leads her dog, a chihuahua that is dressed as a honeybee. The morning's light pours over the girl and her dog. As they climb another mound of dirt, the dog turns to me and says, "Don't fuck with me. I'm capable of anything. I am boundless." These are the early days of autumn. The mind soars, love rises. Let our bodies keep watch over the work. So I just got a poem published. I heard about it yesterday. It's with a journal. I've been trying for years to get them to take my work. Been rejected maybe 5 times. I mean, just about everybody here is a writer, so you know what I'm talking about. It's a 4-way review is the journal. It's a real nice one. Anyway, I'm so excited, I thought I'd read the poem. This was, however, despite all my enthusiasm, this was written on a very dark night for me. It's called Offering. Unknown, wind-blown, the night requests your presence. The world burns at the oven door of your blank page. An offering moves from one hand to another, just as in Christ's time, rewinding and grieving, rewinding and grieving. Take a bite of the onion. Do you know where you are? There is a box of ashes and a handshake. The rest is your problem. I am going to finish with one more poem, but first, I want to thank Al and Nina for the Molly series. You guys have been doing this for a long, long time, and it takes a lot of time and effort, and it is a place where writers can get together. You support us all, and I really want to thank you. Thank you for all you guys do.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, sure.
And I will
Kurt,
I'll pass that along to Nina too. And yeah, of course, Kurt is our technical guy. He's been
Kurt,
doing it out of the kindness
as
of
longer than I've been around. You've been doing it, Kurt.
And you've been doing some of this online stuff with me longer than about anybody else I know.
Yes.
You want to talk 1990s and video phones?
Hey, Kurt, I still have the T-shirt. Telepoetics. Okay. So I started with a poem about spring. I'm going to end with one about fall. It's called Fall, and it's after a poem by Gerald Stern. Gerald Stern's a terrific poet. He shows me how you can be exuberant in poetry. And yeah, I love his work. This actually, his poem was called Spring, and mine is called Fall. 1 second, please. The dawn after a night-long rain. The poem, the one by Jerry Stern. The alley I turned down as fallen leaves loosen the brightly painted girl of the waterfall within me, about whom I've been silent for decades. The linden slowly dying that later will return alive, and Eros standing naked among the parked cars. What does he want of me? Shameless, unraveling the thread-like thing woven from the bright intersections of avenues, the touch that speaks both cherishing and farewell. I watch a jet float through an L train. I slip past the rush hour as quietly as an old man coming home for supper. Where is my narrative? A chorus of locusts cries out, A woman with wet red shoes and pocketbook spins the streets intersecting Clark Street, scatter and disentangle. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mike. That was wonderful. And thank you, Tori. We had two great features tonight. Really enjoyed it. And our open mic, thank you everyone who read. It was really, really something. I do have to give a call out to Kurt. He's given his time just so generously to help us with keep Traveling Molly's going. And
I see applause out there, Al. The two things that, can I just jump in here as long as you threw focus on me? First of all, behold, I bought the book. All right. I didn't wait to see the guy.
Oh, nice. Thank you, Kurt.
I got the book. I'm enjoying the book. It's a beautiful book. And by the way, it was lovely to be able to read this and listen to you at the same time.
Oh, nice.
On a number of the pieces. I thought that was wonderful.
Thank you.
And I don't get a chance to do that too often. Second point, Al, did you open the night with something you said was like a poem about urban experience and blood on the sidewalk and stuff like that?
Yeah. Except it was about it was a rural scene, but it was actually about an urban scene.
Well, okay. Talk about the contrast of rural versus urban. Okay, I was in an antique shop in Three Oaks, Michigan, which is a very small town.
Yeah.
But I found something that the proprietor thought would be really appropriate for someone like me in Chicago.
Oh my God.
Ooh.
Oh my
God. So yeah, I think it sort of spoke to your poem. That's why I wanted to share. So
thanks for that. It's
sell this, and I'm moving to someplace near Antioch in about a year. So wish me luck.
I reposted again our link for our virtual hat that we like to pass. And we started to do this. We have a little time and kind of a question Q&A for our features, and you guys, I didn't prepare you for this, but so it's not totally fair. But I don't have a list of questions. I just wanted to ask for you guys, both Tori and Mike, and excuse me if my biography is off, but usually our feature, for the last year or so, with just a couple of exceptions, many of our features have been heavily academic people, professors, and very involved, But part of being an academic also means that you have to publish, and part of your job is continuing to write. But I know, as far as I know, and I know Mike better than Tori, you've had to balance your poetry with the real world and real gigs, as I have done, and I know it's hard to do. And when you're not in an academic environment, where you're not being inspired by books and students all the time, and so I just wonder how each of you kind of does that. I know, Mike, you're not working right now, but moved on to that better place. But as I have too, but just to ask if you'd each comment on what's your practices to keep yourself going.
It's of course, a labor of love. You do it for the community. It's not a solitary endeavor. You do it for the community, as is evidenced by so many of the people here. You get a lot of feedback in readings, you get a feedback in workshops, and that has kept me going. And so now Mary and I have retired. I'm really happy to say, but now that I have the opportunity, it's not hard, because it's been in the cracks for so many years. And now this is a blessing, and I'm taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I know for myself, I spent many lunch hours reading and trying to, like you said, sit in cafes and get ideas. But you're you're limited to that hour. When you have a little time for yourself at work, and so Tori, I know you work too. How do you handle that?
Yes, and I'm still working. I'm not quite at the blessed state Michael is in, but I do have a finish line, so I'm looking forward to that. Most of my career, I was in marketing and media. So I was around communications, not poetic communications, but a version of communications. So that was always interesting. And then mornings were my saving grace, sort of like what Al said, capturing that hour or hour and a half before work, snatches of time during the workday. That's been kind of my savings grace. And like Michael said, it's just something you kind of have to do to stay connected to other people and remember other people. I think, now I'm at a point where the writing is how I remember or try to keep hold of the people that were precious to me in my life. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've been in marketing and media too. And I know Mike has too. So the three of us have that in common. Mm-hmm. There is something to be said, and I can always tell people that I've spent my whole career as a writer in some aspect, even though I wasn't writing poetry, I was describing faucets and other products, but yeah, it's one, and there's a number of poets I know who make a living that way, but it's, you have to make a living, if you're not lucky enough to be a professor, and you still love poetry. So I don't know if you had anything more to add to that. So,
Nope, we covered it.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tori and Mike and all the open micers. It was really a wonderful night. Thank you, Kurt. And until next month, watch your emails and Facebook, and we'll have, it's always the second Tuesday of the month. Nina and I have been doing it almost 20 years, but this reading's been going on since like 1997, so we've been at it a while.
Yes, you have.
So anyway, have a nice Thanksgiving, everyone. We'll see you in December.
Thank you, Al.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Have a lovely night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.